Good morning, and happy Mommy Mondays. Kia Ortiz here, wishing all the mothers a happy Mother's Day. I hope you guys enjoyed your weekend, your time with your family. And so I'm excited to be here another um, talk about mothers around the world. It is our Mommy Monday special, the month of May, where we want to continue to celebrate mothers. And so thank you to everyone that supported last week's video as we talked with Brenda, who's Puerto Rican with the special needs son, as she shared her perspective on motherhood and culture. And so today we have the awesome privilege of having my friend Emily, who lives in Hungary. And you might say, why Hungary? I think it's important for us to take a look. Hold on one second. Life of a mother. I think it's beneficial for us to take a look at some other mothers around the world, such as some countries that are much smaller than ours. Hungary is the size of Indiana, to help us get a better idea of what is motherhood and what is culture. And so today she's going to talk to us about what it's like living in Hungary, what it's like being pregnant, raising her children, what it's like having the health insurance and the health care that they have there. Remind you, a much smaller country. So as you listen today, I want you to comment, share. Let's begin the conversation on building the proper expectations around motherhood outside of just our American culture. All right, so without further ado, I introduce to you Emily. Or good evening, Emily. I know it's 9 o'clock over here, but it is
6 o'clock.
6 o'clock over there. Oh my goodness. So I'm so excited that you are here to share your story, your life on living in Hungary. Can you tell the people a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, of course. So my name is Emily Handler. I'm 40 years old. I've lived in Hungary since 2005. And if you want to do the math, that's I came here right out of college. And I have a husband. He's Hungarian, and we have two sons who are 5 and 2 years old. Two little Hungarian American babies. Babies, huh? They're not really babies, but
They'll
still
forever
think
be
they're
your
babies.
baby.
They're always babies.
Exactly. Yeah. So then how did you end up in Hungary?
It's a long story. The shorter version is that I came here in 2005 to be an English teacher. I came with a program called CETP, Central European Teaching Program. I'm dropping that in there because we are still looking for teachers. So if anyone wants to come teach in Hungary, come. But so yeah, I came in 2005 with the plan of teaching here for 1 or 2 years, and then I was going to go somewhere where I could make some money teaching, like Japan or China or somewhere. But that just never happened because I met a guy here who turned out to be my husband a few years later. So that's how I'm still here.
Oh, how'd y'all meet?
That's also a really funny story. I had met his cousin previously, like just in the teachers who were here before me introduced me to all of their friends, and they introduced me to this cousin, and we were friends. And then he asked me like, "Hey, I have this stupid little cousin of mine who needs to learn some English. Can you give him some English lessons?" And I met my husband, Tommy, and we had a couple of English lessons, and then he went to do his English language exam and didn't tell me that he'd done the exam. So he just kept coming back for more and more English lessons.
Oh.
And yeah, so started like that. But
that is awesome. I think for a lot of people, like even if you say, come over to Europe or come over to another country and to teach, I think it's a little scary. Like some people may feel like, no, I could never do that. So what gave you the courage, the boldness? I mean, you're leaving your family, everything you know, for another country.
Well, for me, it was easier because I had actually been in Hungary before. Like I came here in a student exchange program also. And the woman who coordinated the student exchange was also the coordinator of this teacher exchange program. So like I came with my college originally. It was one semester and it was like a well-structured program. We didn't have so much freedom. And like this coordinator woman, she sort of jokingly told me that like, okay, go back and finish college. And if you ever want a job teaching, come back to Hungary. And at that point I was like, me, a teacher? You're crazy, lady. No, thanks. But then when I was in my last couple of years of college, I was like, teaching, maybe I could do that. So yeah, so here I am, still teaching.
That's awesome because it's like the best of both worlds, right? You get to work, but you get to experience another country with, I guess it would be some type of sponsorship, right?
Not so much. No, it's just like you have a job teaching here. It's a regular job, the same as the Hungarian teachers have. Plus, this program is like giving support, like mental and physical and emotional support to the helping teachers be here in Hungary. And actually, that's another part of what I do. Like, since I've been here so long, I might be the person who's been here longest with the program. I also like help now mentor the incoming American teachers here. And for me, that's great because like I get to do two sides of it. Like with my Hungarian students, I get to teach them about American culture. And with the incoming Americans, I get to teach them about Hungarian culture. And that's lovely. I love that. Like, yeah.
That is cool. Like, so you're like the bridge.
I hope so.
Yes.
Hopefully a useful one.
Yes, you are because my friend Tegan, you guys have met Tegan before. She's been on Mommy Mondays before.
I didn't know that. She didn't tell me that. Okay.
Yes, that's my boo. That's my heart. And so when we had Mommy Mondays about friends, because being moms is hard to get friends, and so we were talking about the fact that and we met in Ohio, and then she's moved, I've moved, and here we are. She's in Hungary, but every Wednesday, 7:00 my time, I presume that is 4:00 your time.
Something like that.
Wednesday morning, we're talking so we can stay in contact. And we have that set time because I think sometimes we can lose the friendship, especially if we're overseas, because of times and schedule, we're kind of leaving it up to the chance. Whereas if we have a set time, this is our time. If I need to reschedule, we reschedule. If not, And
that's important. Yeah.
It is. And through Tegan, I met you.
Yeah.
And so it was like, because my biggest fear when she moved, like, mind you, she ain't my daughter or anything like that, but I was like, you're going where? Because her background is Hungarian. I remember years ago, she was like, I just want to go home and see what my people were like and things of that nature. And so when she told me about this, I was like, oh my gosh, girl, you go. But then I was like, oh my gosh, you don't know nothing. You don't know Hungarian. Oh my God. And then you're going to get married. Oh my God. Like, I'm like, for her. And so when she told me, she's like, there's a woman named Emily. She has 2 children. She's married. She's a teacher. Loves it here. And I was like, okay, cool. And so you guys, that's how me and Emily met.
Yeah. I didn't even know that Tegan had Hungarian background. She hadn't told me that. I'm going to have to pester her some more. Like, tell me some things about you.
Yes, I gave you the tea. Because I think it's, even as we're talking about, mothers around the world, talking about the children, that aspect of things, I think it's so vital for them. Ooh, and I want to cry, for them to go and see their heritage, go to that country, put your feet on the ground and experience where you come from.
That's okay. Like going back even more in the story of why I'm in Hungary. That's why I originally came on the exchange program with my college, because I have Hungarian background, like great grandparents. And my very first year at college, I had like these old Hungarian documents that I wanted to translate. So I started taking a Hungarian class at my college, thinking that I was going to take like 1 semester of the language and then be able to translate these handwritten, archaic Hungarian documents, which obviously didn't happen. But the professor asked me, like, so why are you taking this class anyway? Are you going on the exchange program? And I was like, there's an exchange program? Yeah. And then that spiraled into like getting to know the director and then offering me a job teaching and then coming back teaching. And here I am still. So yeah.
That is amazing. So how does it feel for you to be somewhere where you come from?
I think about that a lot, like that my great-grandparents and great-great-grandparents, like several of them went to the States from here, and that I came back and like am raising my kids here. I don't know. That's really cool for me. Yeah.
It'd be amazing. Because I know, so my husband's Puerto Rican and I'm Black. And there's a lot of stuff going on here in the United States. One of them is police brutality, many different things. There are riots going on. And one of those riots happened in Baltimore. And I was working right outside Baltimore. And one thing, people were like, upset about the vandalizing. People shouldn't be doing that. And in my mind, I'm like, I can connect with that, right? Because I'm angry. I am angry that, Black people tend to be pointed out for police brutality, many different things going on. And I said, but I also have an issue because it doesn't feel like America is home sometimes, right? And we know the history of slavery. And I said, I just wish there was a place I can go and say, this is home.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so my husband, when we're raising our kids, I could take them to Puerto Rico, right? But where can I take my children for mommy's side, right? So we have Black History Month, and I explained to him all those things, but I don't know my culture. And then when I do a blood work, it's a mix of all kinds of things. So am I going to travel the world and go to 20 different countries because that's my bloodline? You're doggone skippy. But that's not here nor there. But I think that's so important to be able to say, this is where you come from, especially because a lot of people are dealing with identity crisis.
Yeah.
It's hard to connect with other people when you don't know that you belong or you're trying to find acceptance. So I just think that's beautiful that you give yourself and your children that experience.
I think about that about my kids sometimes, like how are they going to view their American side? Because the younger one has never been to America. The older one has, but he was 1.5, so he doesn't really remember anything like at all. And I don't really see us traveling there in the future. I don't have too much family left in the States now, unfortunately. So there's not really much to go back to. And it makes me think a lot about like, are we ever going to go back there? And even if we do or we don't, still, what's their relationship to America? Like my older son sort of vaguely knows that it's a country where his grandparents lived or used to live, but I don't think he really understands the concepts of countries and nations and whatever else. So
yeah, and he's 5. Right?
Yeah, he's got some time still.
You got some time. But I think that's so cool that you think about that because you have a lot of Americans or people that have moved from America and don't plan on going back. And then it's kind of like when parents get divorced, right? The other parent that's not there is so glorious, so wonderful. So, you know what I mean? And so they can kind of hype it in their head. Because I know when I lived in Germany, you're American. Oh, we love your food. We love rap. We love, can I touch your hair? And I'm like, the America that you know is not the America I know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, and so and also for people that are listening, I love America. I think America's great. But one thing, and Emily, you can probably attest to this, when you travel the world, when you go to different countries, it kind of gives you a sobriety about America and about other countries.
Yeah.
I don't know. You already said that you've been here in Hungary before, but do you think because you've been both places and traveled, it kind of diminished the anxiety that normally would be there?
Probably, for sure. I think, yeah, for sure at the beginning, because I knew what I was getting into. Like I knew a little bit about the culture. Well, actually, I thought I knew a little bit about it. Turned out I knew a lot less, but I had just like enough to be confident, which was a mistake, but that's okay. Yeah. When I came as a student, obviously I came as a student. That's a lot different as being an adult. And we were like in a really sheltered, like a very structured program. We were in Budapest, which is, of course, it's the capital city. And it's like every other capital city in the world, I think. Not so different. And then when I came back as an adult, like having to work, having to be a teacher for the first time, it was my first teaching job ever in a foreign country, having to like live by myself for the first time and living outside of Budapest in a smaller town where people do not speak English, despite what people like. Oh yeah, everyone speaks English. Of course, all the young people speak English. Maybe, sure. But yeah, it was a little bit of a culture shock for sure, but it was worth it. Yeah. It's still culture shock. Like people ask me like, do you still get culture shock after almost 20 years? Yes, for sure. Like there's still things that just throw me off sometimes, especially when I put my guard down. Yeah.
I can imagine, which then kind of leads us to one question I know everybody's wondering about, especially moms, what it's like being pregnant over there and having children. Because I could imagine that could be a thing where, you moved over there as a single person. Now it's a whole nother dynamic being married and having children.
Yeah.
Ava. She wants to chime in.
Yeah, she has opinions too.
Right? She's like, Mama, where's my passport? So I'm curious, what is it like being pregnant in Hungary?
It was it was strange. But in okay, so first let me just the medical part I think is really fantastic. The Hungarian medical system, for all its faults, is still like worlds better than the American one. It's all like I don't even know the right word, like the state sponsored, so it's like free.
Okay, yeah, free healthcare.
Free healthcare. You can do private, and like most people do, I think, like a combination of private and public, and the private is still very affordable, even like for a Hungarian teacher's salary. My husband's also a teacher, so yeah, double teacher salary.
Oh, okay.
But and like they have a really unique system in Hungary called I was going to figure out what to call it. There's a position called a védőnő, which literally translates as protection woman. But it's like a specialized kind of nurse. I guess maybe they would be like a early child care nurse. Is that a thing?
Doula or a midwife?
No, because it's not connected to the birth. It's like literally her job. So protection woman, literally her job is to protect the child, both when it's inside you and then until the child is, I think, 16 years old. So like her job is to basically coordinate everything else as the pregnancy. Like she sees you monthly to give you the checkups, like every sort of, not the internal checkup, but everything external she does, like the testing your blood and your blood pressure and your weight and everything, giving you all of like the general advice about everything you need, like coordinating with the other different doctors about this is when you have to do this test, this is when you have to do this test. And you meet her every month, towards the end of the pregnancy, every 2 weeks, then every 1 week, then every second day. And then during the birth, she's not actually part of the birth. That's like the doctor, the gynecologist. And then after the birth, you meet her every day for a couple of weeks, and then every second day, and then like once a week and whatever. And yeah, and I still meet mine frequently because like she meets the children every month, then every 6 months, then every year. And now, even though my kids are older, 2 and 5, she still meets them every year just for checkups. Like, so she still does checkups with them regularly to be sure that they're growing and progressing and whatever. So yeah, it's a really complete system. And I think it's great. Like the fact that there's this unique position dedicated to protecting children, that's her only job. And every pregnant woman is required to have one. Like if you don't, you can actually, I almost went to jail. But now let me tell you this story. They're divided up by district, and we moved a couple of years ago, and the protection woman for this district where we live now heard that there was a new baby in this building from the neighbors, because of course she's also their protection woman. Mm-hmm. And so she almost called the police because how dare there be a baby in this building that wasn't registered to her? And because that's how serious they take it. And of course, it got settled, obviously, because that's fine. But yeah, it's a very serious thing here.
So then, okay, because I can already hear the other moms on the other side, right? Yeah. It leaves me with two things. One side of me is like, oh my goodness. Like, could you imagine? Okay, let me come. Because here in America, it's confusing to be pregnant. It's confusing to give birth. It's confusing after, right? Yeah. I mean, postpartum alone is something that we're just now like accepting as a thing. Because it was kind of like you have your baby, you good, now go back. So
go home.
It's huge, right? And so to have yourself a personal baby assistant to keep you on top of things, to keep track of things.
Yep. It was great. And like, it's not only her, there's a whole series of like little booklets. There's one that's like the pregnancy book, and then there's one for the kid, like after the kid is born, which has like everything's written down, all your statistics, all the lists of tests you need to do, the records from each doctor that you visit, because you have to visit like the regular GP, the gynecologist, the blood work, the ultrasound. These are all different places because unfortunately Hungary doesn't like coordinate stuff. You have to do it separately. But still, that's yeah.
You got somebody to help you with that.
Yeah, and still all free. So that's yeah.
I'm crying rivers.
Yeah. I don't know. I know my védőnő protection lady is fantastic anyway. She was a family, like I kind of knew her. She was a friend before I was pregnant. So that probably influenced a lot. I have heard a couple of people stories that they didn't like theirs at all. She wasn't helpful. She like just basically looked at the kid and was like, yeah, the kid's 5'7" and he's healthy, fine, go home. So that's, I mean, there are bad ones too. I happen to have a really good experience, but from what I've heard from other mothers in general, they're good, I hope.
Good. So can you change a person if you don't like them?
No, that's the other thing. Like, it's fixed. It's by district, and it's pretty strictly by district. I got mine, like my friend, because they're allowed to switch like 2 people a year or something, and so she switched me with someone else or whatever. But it is really strict, and in fact, that can lead to problems because I know that it's all in Hungarian. That's the other thing. It's maybe in Budapest there's some that speak English, but in my town for sure not. And for example, I know another American here in Solna who's pregnant and doesn't speak much Hungarian, and that's a pain because yeah, she can't switch and she is stuck with this Hungarian speaking helper, and yeah, so that's a disadvantage if you're here as a foreigner, but most Hungarians don't have that problem, I guess.
Yeah, and that's a good point because I mean, one thing that you had mentioned to me offline was Hungary is not very doesn't have a lot of immigrants that don't have a lot of people from other countries, which then kind of makes it a little bit different than other places in Europe because I know there's a huge thing speaking English, right?
Yeah.
Knowing other cultures. And so if you're ever thinking about moving to Hungary, keep that in mind. There's not a lot of foreigners living there, but oh my gosh, that healthcare alone is like what? So then it leaves me with a second thing because that sounds great, but then I think the other part is do you think this is for government control or more for support?
I think it's one of the rare instances in Hungary where it's really for support. It's not about control because yeah, there's a lot of things like that. But I think this truly is like a good program, as far as I know.
Awesome. If anybody has any governmental control in the US, please get us a voodoo. What's it? How you say it?
Gaydun, protection woman.
A protection woman. That is so cool. Look, and I'm thinking about mine as a mom of 4. I wouldn't mind like starting a business to be that because we're just now accepting doulas and midwives, seeing the importance of the medical profession. That's their job, that's their focus, is not generally for the mom or the child. So you need someone to be that liaison between the two and what's important to me as a mom and what's medical. And so having that advocate is huge. And then you have that person for a birth and for your birthing, but then to have the support after. Oh my God.
Yeah. I just thought of a great translation for it. You could translate it as like your pregnancy secretary or something like that, because she's the one that like she does all the paperwork, she coordinates everything for you, and she's not actually at the birth. She doesn't do any of the internal exams. They're nurses, they're officially nurses, but not doctors. But like she's the one that pulls the strings of everything to make everything happen somehow. Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
Okay, so you have the support. Look.
Definitely. Yeah, the support is fantastic. When I was pregnant, especially the first time, the second time was during COVID, so obviously that was very different. But the first time, like the amount of support was amazing, both from the pregnancy specialists and also like my general doctor. And I had like high blood sugar readings, so I had to go through the diabetes screenings and all of that. Like they were all super nice and kind. They're really nice to pregnant people here, and also to mothers with small children. I think they're very generous. Like, yeah. It's really nice.
Because I'm getting choked up a little bit because.
You want to come teach English in Hungary? You can bring your family if you want.
Yeah, I'm all thinking like the healthcare alone, because I know for me personally, my twins, I had no issues throughout the whole pregnancy, none whatsoever. But I did have not preeclampsia. Yeah, I did, but I ended up having Braxton Hicks a lot to the last like 3-4 weeks. And I really wanted to go to full term, and they kept saying, "Oh, it's Braxton Hicks," but I'm like, they were contractions, and I've had natural birth. They were contraction. My uterus just was not opening, or my my cervix wasn't opening up. And so that's actually why they had to take the twins, because my cervix just wouldn't open. And it was because my son was sideways. He wasn't head down to put that pressure. But I remember everything was perfectly fine. Went in for my last doctor visit because the following week I was scheduled to go ahead and induce labor.
Mhm.
That Monday, they were like, your blood pressure is kind of high. We're going to call you tomorrow. So they called me like, hey, we think you have preeclampsia. We're going to go ahead and take the babies on Thursday, which was
Jeez.
December 31st. So as an insurance professional, okay, I was like, yes, my deductible won't start again.
That's a good way to see it. Yeah.
My one son was born 12 in the afternoon. The other one was 12:01. And I was like, oh my gosh, my $5,000. So that anxiety that comes with being treated.
Yeah.
Is huge. Because you don't want to bankrupt yourself, your family, but you also want to make sure that you're getting the best care. And sometimes I feel like we skip a lot of things in America because we're having to balance between being a mother and being provider.
Mhm.
Or in this case, a lot of people, like, you have a husband and, generally speaking, the role is provider, but you need dual income in a lot of cases. So even on down to best case scenario, if you have a good job, you'll have disability for when you go out, which is 60% of your income. And prayerfully, that's not taxed because some is taxed. So best case scenario, you get 60. Worst case scenario, you might get 45, 50% of your income. And then you have 6 weeks for a normal pregnancy, 8 weeks for a C-section. And you're shaking your head. And I'm like, I know
Horrible.
better at that. And then the next best case scenario, let's say you don't have disability or in conjunction with disability, you have something called FMLA.
Mhm.
FMLA just holds your spot for 12 weeks, but there's no income associated with it. So
Horrible.
if you go to some jobs, well, what is your plan for pregnant women or birth? Oh, we have FMLA. And some people, oh, great, they have something in place. It's not. It's just this means they can't fire you for
Yeah,
being.
that's not great.
No, and it's no income. So then you're having mothers literally have a baby and go back to work the same week or in a
That's
couple of weeks.
I remember that, of course, I would join all the pregnancy Facebook groups, and there was a majority Americans. And I remember seeing a couple of people, like, when I was still in hospital, like, because in Hungary, the typical stay before COVID was like 5 or 6 days in hospital after giving birth. Because, they want to, like, make sure that everything is okay. And if you're breastfeeding, they want to make sure that the milk comes in and, like, everything is going well. So that's, like, a normal thing. And I remember being in the hospital still and seeing mothers talk about going back to work. What's wrong with you? That's not okay. Like that. Oh, no, that's
Emily,
horrible.
while you're still in the hospital, many moms here are going back to work. And then now, because I had C-section with the twins, I think I was out of hospital in like 3 days. They pretty much want to make sure that you can use the bathroom, make sure all the kids get their things and their tests and shots, make sure that they pass the car seat test, and then they're out. With Ava, I had her, like, I forgot exactly what time at night. We had a full day, and that following night I was out of the hospital. And it makes you think, because it's a lot of women that have passed because they weren't sewn up properly or they hemorrhaged or something happened and they were at home and they didn't get to the hospital in time. And it's so sad because it's like, what is the urgency? Like, having a baby is major. C-section is major surgery. I remember you're awake. And so though I didn't feel the pain, I felt the pressure and I felt the baby one's out, baby two's out. And then you want to send me home in 3 days to deal with crying babies, hormones, healing, can't walk, can't poop.
Yeah. No, it's a broken system. It's not right.
No, it's not. So move over, Emily, because we coming.
All right.
Coming. Like, oh my goodness. So, okay, you said that you guys have free healthcare. You have somebody to come and support you. What is it like after you have given birth with your child? What is the government? Do you get any government assistance? Does your employer help you?
I feel like this is one of the things that, like, because we talk about the healthcare system when we do the orientation for the Americans coming over here, and the thing I say, and it's still true, like, I feel like just for being pregnant and giving birth to a kid, the Hungarian government just, like, threw the money at me. So it's ridiculous. I mean, I'm not complaining, obviously, and okay, it wasn't like really a ton of money, but there are so many programs here. Like, first of all, there's the basic maternity leave, which is 6 months. It's like six months obligatory. Like, you're not allowed to work for 6 months. I'm sure you can, but I've never heard of anybody doing it. Yes, yeah.
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh.
And that's like, it's paid. They changed it recently too, so I'm not sure. Like, when I did it, it was more than my regular paycheck, which again, it's a teacher's salary, so it's not huge, but still, it was more than that.
I'd be a professional baby maker.
Right? That's like, it's a legit thing to do. Yeah. And then, like, after that, from 6 months up until 2 years, there's like the second part of the maternity leave, which is also, it's slightly less than the paycheck, but it's also like not taxed. So it's also like, we lived on that, so that was fine. Yeah. And then there's like a third year, which is kind of an optional third year where you can stay if you want to. They pay you sort of a minimal, which is like the third year to sort of push you back, like either push you into the workplace or to having another kid. You have to decide during the third year sometime. So yeah. But like, in addition to that, there's also, again, not so much in Budapest, but like outside of Budapest, there's really good and a lot of nursery schools, and starting from 6 months even, up until 3 years, you can put your kids into nursery schools. And then from 3 years is when compulsory education starts. Like, kindergarten starts, it's from 3 to 6. It's 3 years of kindergarten. But it's not really like kindergarten in the States. It's really more like play school or something. So it's,
okay.
Yeah.
Do you pay for that?
No. Yes, you pay for it, but the pay is something like a couple of dollars a day. It's like an absolute minimum. It's like the cost of the food, which is nothing. So yeah.
Emily, when I was in Maryland, it was $375 a week per child.
Yeah.
And then they had the nerve to be like, oh, we'll give you 50% off the next child. That's still a lot.
That's a ton. 50% off, please.
Yeah. I'm like, oh my goodness. And another place was like, well, we can't do 50% off, but we'll give you 75% of your initial enrollment. Why am I paying for an initial enrollment? Like, and then you still bring your own diapers. You still got to bring your wipes most places.
Yeah.
If you're breastfeeding, you're bringing the food, you know?
Yeah.
That is amazing.
Yeah.
Do you see a lot of people over there with a lot of kids? Because that's a business.
That's a cultural thing. There's like, so at the beginning, when we talked about that Hungary is a very monocultural thing, it's actually like there's Hungarians and then there's Gypsies or Roma, depending on how you want to say. And like, that's a big cultural difference, which I'm not educated enough to go into like all the nuances of it. But like at a basic level, like Roma families have a lot more children because children is a really important thing for them, and Hungarian families don't. So I think the average in Hungary is like somewhere between 1 or 2 kids. Yeah.
Oh, so
but I'm not sure about that actually. Don't quote me on that.
No, that's fine, but that's a good thing, because I mean, today's conversation is about what part is motherhood and what part is cultural. And so some cultures do encourage a lot of children, and some apparently don't.
There are like a lot of government programs. So in addition to the maternity leave and the free healthcare and the free schools, nearly free schools, there's a lot of programs now, government programs, like trying to support Hungarians into having more kids. Mm-hmm. For example, there's a bunch of housing programs like that. If you actually, my brother-in-law and sister-in-law did this not so long ago. If you promise to have a certain number of kids, the government will give you a huge loan towards buying a house. There's different ways of doing it, like that you either don't have to pay it back, or that you can pay it back with 0 interest, or like things like that. It's they call it like the have pregnancy loan or something like that. So yeah. Or like, even when we bought this flat, which we bought a couple of years ago, we also got like a grant basically just for being the parents of young children and promising to live here in this flat together, married with our children. We promised to live here for 10 years, and they gave us, I think it's something like 5% of the cost of the flat. So like, okay, great. Yeah.
So not only do they want you to have babies, but they want you to stay married.
Yeah, that too. Yeah, that's like, and if you do get divorced, you have to pay it back, or if you move out, even. So, like, okay, but
It's like, no, it's till death do us part, or at least
yeah,
do us
because
part.
we can't pay it back. Yeah, yeah. Well, nothing's perfect, but yeah.
That is
Oh,
so.
and they also have other things like I don't know them because like I'm not looking into having 3 or 4 kids, but I think it's like if you have 3 kids, they forgive all your student loans maybe, and if you have 4 kids, you don't have to pay income tax for the rest of your life. That
So my student loans will be paid because right now we're waiting for Biden because I got 4,
yeah,
and I don't have to pay no more taxes.
that's it. Yeah, yeah. When are you gonna get your plane ticket? Are you coming this week? Next week?
Look, and you got my girl over there. I'm like, I just we have a talk with my husband. I cannot believe that. And so then, okay, and I want to wrap up with like this question because I could talk to you for days, Emily.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. You're so
For
like
sure.
your wealth of knowledge, and I could definitely tell that you're a teacher and just you're in the know, and I love it. So because one of the things is when it comes to citizenship, I want to highlight that because I think sometimes as Americans, we just, we're American citizens. That's it. We don't ever really consider dual citizenship like many other people around the world. And so, was it required for you? Like, could you keep your US citizenship, or did you have to become a citizen in order to get all these benefits and stay?
No, the majority of these benefits, in fact, I'm gonna say all of them I would have gotten them anyway. Actually, when I gave birth to my first son, I wasn't a citizen, and I still got everything.
Oh, okay.
Some of them, most of them, I got because I am employed here, and I've been paying into the Hungarian tax system. Which, by the way, if I had to say something bad about Hungary, they do have ridiculously high taxes, but that's because it supports all of these different support systems. So fair enough. And just by working here for a year, and I mean the year minimum, and paying into the system, I would have qualified for the maternal leave, for example. And like the other things are either because I was working or because I took part in the public system instead of going to the private healthcare system, or because my husband's Hungarian and the kid is also Hungarian. Yeah. So I didn't have to get citizenship, but I did because I thought it was important to have the same citizenships as my kids. That seemed in the world today, that's kind of important, I think. But
Yeah. Can you tell the people why you chose to have dual citizenship?
yes, just because we plan on staying here, and I think it's useful for just for everyday life to have Hungarian citizenship. It's not like I use it for anything. I sometimes forget about it, but it's just easier than explaining all the time that I'm American. And it was really funny that I started to do citizenship a long time ago, like on the basis of my ancestry of my great grandparents being Hungarian. And I actually got pretty far in the process up until the point where I would have had to take the citizenship test. And the citizenship test is ridiculous.
It's hard.
It's not long, but most of it's an oral test actually. Like you draw a topic at random and then have to give a presentation about it. And some of the topics were normal things like a little bit of history, the government structure, whatever. And then some of them were just absolutely bizarre random topics. Like, I don't remember offhand, but there was things like, how did this one novel affect politics of the 1940s? And like things that were just like, I don't, like Hungarians don't know that. Why should I know that? But anyway, I put that aside. And then a couple years later, after I had my first son, I applied for citizenship based on being the mother of a Hungarian. And that was much smoother. I didn't have to do the test. So that was how it worked out. And it was a really funny process. I applied for Hungarian citizenship more or less at the same time we were doing the American citizenship for my son, because we had to like apply for that. It was easy, but it was really funny to compare the two processes because like to get the American citizenship for him, we drove up to the embassy, turned in all the papers, threw a bunch of money at them because it was super expensive. And then at the end of the day, he had the citizenship. That was it. Whereas the Hungarian one, it was a free process, also involved a ton of papers, and took 8 months. And for me, that was so like typically Hungarian American, like speedy service costs a lot, super slow but free. That's everything in a nutshell right there.
That is so American. You got money, life is much easier and smoother and quicker. Like His face. That is really good, and I appreciate that insight because even though your children are Hungarian and though you do not plan to come back to the U.S., you still got them U.S. citizenship.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And that's really cool because I think a lot of times, and maybe at another time, because I had to do some research now that you're talking, the benefits of having multiple citizenships, because I think Americans are like, no, loyalty to US only, but there's a lot of benefits. And if you know any, please share to having dual citizen. And one citizenship, one thing that I find too is when you travel, when you're going through customs, there's some difference between if you're American or from a different country and vice
Yeah.
versa.
Yeah, yeah. Especially during COVID, that was like a big problem. I know
Yeah.
that a lot of people like they either couldn't stay in the country or had problems. For sure, they couldn't like leave Hungary and travel around Europe like they wanted to because their visa was tied to here. And yeah, yeah, that was a problem.
Wow. Okay. Oh my goodness. I gotta definitely do that. And we'll talk about that later, you guys, as we continue on our journey around the world. Emily, I thank you so much for your time,
You're
for what
welcome.
you shared with us today. I just thank you for living your life.
Oh, yeah. You're welcome. Anytime.
I really appreciate it. And I know that a lot of moms can really glean from today's conversation because I think sometimes we kind of get pigeonholed and can't discern, is this stress, this anxiety normal because I'm a mom,
Mm.
or it's difficult because of the culture that we live in, and just how you've expressed the differences right there. My anxiety level, even though I'm not pregnant or anything like that, like just dropped to know that I have someone to help me. And maybe these will bring up questions for us to ask our government, our congressmen and things of that nature. How can we support moms? Because postpartum depression, mom suicides, it's kids being harmed because there's a lot of
Mhm.
stressors and there are a lot of things going on. And so by sharing your perspective, it kind of gets us out of that bubble and say, oh, there is more. There is a difference. It can be better. It can be different. Maybe I just got to shift a little bit, ask some questions and things of that nature. So thank you so much.
You're very welcome. I'm glad that I could tell the stories, and I hope that they're useful or at least interesting to someone.
They truly are. So you guys, we're gonna wrap up today. Thank you for tuning in. Continue the conversation in the comments. Feel free, Emily, if you don't mind, if they have any questions, can they reach out to you directly?
Absolutely. Yeah, for sure.
Okay, so I'm gonna put Emily's Facebook profile in the comments. Reach out if you have any questions. You're not alone. There are other mothers around the world that are so open and willing to help you on your journey. So with that, and with Ava, have a wonderful day on purpose. Talk to you guys soon.
Bye.